couple more seats over there. Welcome. This is a big crowd. This is like tested my life. Welcome to the Red Barn. My name is Virginia. I am the community programs educator here at Wenatchee River Institute. I use she, her pronouns. And show of hands, how many of you is this your first time at a Wenatchee River Institute event? All right, that's a fair amount. Cool. Well, welcome or welcome back. Welcome to our online audience as well. You may know that this is also being live streamed and recorded. So you might see some of us, we're wearing microphones. You can't hear that. They can hear that. So a couple things. Want to give some thank yous to some folks here. First of all, to our volunteers, Jim and Joan, helping us with the beverage table. Thank you very much. We have Jeremy in the back helping us with our live stream setup. And we had Curtis, who showed up early, and we put to work putting chairs out, so thank you. So many of you probably know Wenatchee River Institute. We are a nonprofit committed to connecting people, communities, and the natural world. So a lot of what we do is youth-focused. We've had a lot of school kids up here this week on our campus doing field day programs. We have our traveling naturalist program that goes out into schools all the way down to Wenatchee, all the way to Quincy, all the way up to like Pastor Rondo, all sorts of places. We also have our community programs, so things like the Red Barn events. We'll start doing snowshoe strolls in the winter. We have a community garden. So if you're not as familiar with us, please check us out. There is an e-newsletter sign up on the table, not the big popular table over there, but the other one. So let's see. I would like to thank our sponsors. Is that still up? Excellent. So our 2025 Red Barn event sponsors are North Central Washington Audubon Society, Sleeping Lady Mountain Resort, Ludwig's German Restaurant, Leavenworth KOA, Obertal Inn, Ryan House, South Restaurants, Leavenworth Outdoor Center, Orion River Rafting, Icicle Brewing Company, Munchen House, Leavenworth Chamber of Commerce, and Syndicate Smith. So thank you to them. And we have our wonderful sponsors, but we also have lots of fantastic donors. So I know some of you are in the house. Thank you so much. If you would like to donate to Wenatchee River Institute, we have a basket over there and a jar over there. Your donations help us do events like this, keep these as free or cheap for the public as possible, and reach people all over the place. Another aspect of WRI is our effort to connect indigenous peoples to this land, and all of us to the history of this area. So I would like to take a moment for our land acknowledgement. This land acknowledgement was created alongside the Shimpish-Gwashu people. We are spreading the message they wish to be spread to the public. The land Wenatchee River Institute sits on is the ancestral homelands of the Shimpish-Gwashu, Pasquosa, or Wenatchee people. The Shimpish-Gwashu, meaning people in between, had villages positioned along the Wenatchee River and surrounding areas. Their ancestral homeland extends from the Cascade Ridge throughout what is now known as the Wenatchee and Okanagan Valleys. The culture and economy of the Shimpish-Gwashu people centers on taking care of the land. They fish, hunt, gather roots and berries, basket-making materials, and medicines. The Shimpish-Gwashu are named within the Yakima Treaty of 1855. Language to establish the Wenatchee Reservation was never followed through, even with the needed surveying completed. Many Shimpish-Gwashu now live on the Colville Reservation, 150 miles northeast of Leavenworth. They were forced off their land here, and the U.S. government moved them to this reservation. The Shimpish-Gwashu people are still alive today. They continue to practice their culture, harvest their traditional foods and medicines, and hold their ceremonies passed down from their ancestors. Most people won't see or notice them, but they continue to be on the land they are connected to. Their traditional language is in Hamchin, an interior Salish dialect, and we would like to welcome you all tonight by saying hello in their language, Tilhusht. Thank you. We offer this land acknowledgement as the first step to amplifying Indigenous voices and recognizing the harm done to them as a people. We stand as an ally to recognize their connection to the land and their rights to practice their culture on these sacred lands. We encourage all to learn about the Indigenous peoples of the place you now call home. The Wenatchee River Institute is committed to sharing this land acknowledgement and following up with other actions to educate and be respectful. Thank you. And I hope some of you were able to be at Monday's Piscosa Plaza dedication down in Wenatchee. I didn't make it, but I heard it was wonderful. It's in Memorial Park there next to the Wenatchee Library. And if you haven't had a chance yet, there are now some beautiful sculptures, interpretive signs, a whole new kind of design for the area. And it's all inspired by Piscosa history, stories, and art, while looking forward to the future of the tribe. So please check it out. Whew, okay, tonight. Tonight we have the Friends of Mission Ridge to show us their new film. And so I'd like to start by bringing up Mike.
Hey everybody, thank you for being here. My name is Mike Rolfs. I'm part of the leadership of Friends of Mission Ridge. Our goal is to protect the rural nature of the Upper Squilchuck and Stemilt basins. And right now there is a grave threat to that rural nature. My two-time Emmy-award winning partner, Steven Gnam, is a filmmaker, and we're so happy that you're here and care about this, and we're here to watch Steven's film. So here's Steven.
All right, thanks. My name is Steven Gnam, and after this 12-minute film, Mike and I are going to host a Q&A with all of you, and hope you get some good questions for us. A little bit about the name of the film. I called it Ridge to River, and I'm curious who in this audience has done the Ridge to River multi-sport event? Okay, mostly gray hairs. That makes sense. So for the rest of you who don't maybe know what that event was, so Ridge to River was this multi-sport ski, bike, canoe, kayak event from Mission Ridge. I missed a leg and they're running, and you must have done that segment. So it was a multi-sport event. I think some people raced it. Mostly it was a fun community event. And it would go from Mission Ridge all the way down to the Columbia River. And it was this cool event that everyone I've talked to that's done it is very nostalgic. Some people still do it, their own kind of version of it, but the official event is no more. And so a part of the name Ridge to River is a nod to that event in the way that it got people on the landscape and also showed how places like Mission Ridge are connected to the Columbia River. And so even though the official event's over, the original, the OG Ridge to River has been going on for thousands of years. And that has been going on by elk and deer who migrate from the Columbia River and go all the way up to Mission Ridge, Mission Peak for summering. So this migration has been going on since the last ice age. And what they're doing is the deer and elk are going down in the lowlands when there's less snow, and then they move up as the greenery goes, and then they summer up around Mission Ridge and get fat, and then when the snow starts flying this time of year, they start migrating back. So that's the other name for Ridge to River, and as you'll see in the film, someone in this audience helps make that connection for us. So the other reason I named the film Ridge to River, it's not just these, our human connection, it's not just the animal connection. It's really to show that Mission Ridge, it's more than a ski area. The landform from Mission Peak down to the Columbia River, which we call Mission Ridge, is a living landscape. It's a place where people get their water for irrigation, for orchards. And as you'll hear in the film, I think having our relationship to the mountain be one where we're not just taking from it. We're not just, it's not a one-way relationship, but there can be reciprocity with the mountain is something that try to highlight. So thank you.
Hey, Steven. Real quick, can you just explain your history with Mission Ridge and how you got to know it before this?
In the Q&A. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, good question.
So I've been skiing at least once a month since 2010, so that's 15 years. This year is my streak, they call it. And it's somewhat of an obsession, and it's also a great excuse for me to get out. I've had almost 40 season passes at Mission Ridge. Well, my first season pass was 1983. I must have been 12 years old. I keep track of things I do repetitively, and my spreadsheet says I've walked to the top of Mission Ridge almost 500 times. Mission Ridge has been part of my life since I was a little kid, starting when I was about 6 years old, and my mom dropped my sister and I off at the high school to get on a bus to go up for all-day ski lessons. I was a ski racer from youth to high school. I worked for the ski team as a coach. Both my kids grew up skiing here, and they're third-generation Mission Ridge skiers.
Nice!
I don't think the community realizes the magnitude of this development or the impacts it's going to have on the water.
Damn, dude. There's more down here, dude. Massive herd of elk. I remember running out one day, and it was like the Serengeti out there. It was like thousands of elk, just cruising across the landscape. It was unbelievable. I'd seen the elk down there, and I'd seen the elk up on Mission Ridge, and I was like, these two places are connected. And the elk make that transition. And so, I was like, well, let's follow this migration. Like, there's an amazing line here. From the river to the ridge, back to the river. The Colockum herd, they winter down by the Columbia River. And then springtime, they follow the snow line all the way up to Mission Ridge. And then the Stimmel Basin that's their spot. And it's just like it's like an incubator for them. It's this protected area that is cozy. It has everything they need. It has all the water, has all the food. It's their home for the summer. And then as the snows start to fly, they make their way back down valley, back to the Columbia. And so really that unbroken swath of land there is so vital for them. So we have some in the winter, come down onto our farm here. Every year we have a herd, about 40 to 100, that come across our property here in Malaga. I'm a farmer here, I'm in Malaga. Early season, our water comes surface water from the Stimel Basin. So that affects me directly in the quality of water that I get, that feeds my vegetables, that I feed my customers. The headwaters is an important part of any ecosystem. It's where it stores the water, it purifies the water, and it allows us down here to be able to utilize the water for our crops. If we're at the headwaters of an entire watershed, you are holding the master key for everyone else downstream. To me, that's a sacred duty.
Wenatchee's in what's the actual geographic center of Washington. And we're just south of where the continental ice sheet traveled. And they were melting maybe at the same time of the great Missoula floods that were coming through. But Mission Ridge had no glaciers on it, and it's made of this basalt rock. And it then served as a place that plants and animals could be during all this ice activity. And then when the ice retreats, it served as a place of dispersal. And we have more plants that only grow in the Wenatchee Mountains or just a little around it than anywhere else in Washington. So we have a lot of interesting plants on Mission Ridge. One of them is the only place in Washington that it grows, and it's called anemone patens, and it is what we call a glacial relic. And then up here in Mission Ridge on the basalt, we're at the edge of what we call the shrub steppe, the whole Columbia Basin. It's meeting the mountains. So we get to have plants that are typical of shrub steppe or sagebrush grasslands meeting plants of the forest. So we have all those things making this a place of exciting diversity of plants. Whitebark pine is a tree totally dependent on a bird for planting the next generation of seed. So every time I go to the top of Mission Ridge, I just spend a moment standing next to a beautiful whitebark pine, thinking about this phenomenal story of mutualism and thriving because of partnership. I am a biologist and a naturalist, but more importantly, I am a resident who's so loved being nurtured by having Mission Ridge as a place I can come to for connection to nature, time alone, adventure, recreation, enjoying the view. It's really been maybe one of the most important reasons that makes Wenatchee such a great place to live.
We raise the best, cleanest fruit in the world, but we can't do it without our water. So the proposal for Mission Ridge's expansion is, realistically, it's a small town with stores, condos, houses. They're going to have literally thousands of people living there year-round. It would impact hundreds of people that are out here trying to make a living on the farming end, as well as the habitat that's around here. We owe it to the animals. For Pete's sakes, we're supposed to be human beings. We care about the environment. We need to care about our water. We need to care about our land, our soil. We need to care about our wildlife and our fish. It's our duty to take care of them.
But what Mission Ridge is doing is trying to sell this as an expansion of their ski resort. What it is a smoke screen.
The
development doubles the crowding on the hill with only a token amount of new terrain. Beds for 7,812 people, 10,000 cars per day. That's twice the traffic on Stevens Pass.
As soon as he builds this resort, who's to say he's not going to sell it to the highest bidder? I mean, I think people don't quite understand that Mission Ridge is 100% on the United States Forest Service and Washington state land. They say that they're going to create more experiences for us, but at what cost? Taking away part of the elk's summer range. Man, there's already enough pressures on these animals from what we've been doing as humans, and why are we forcing things that don't necessarily need to happen?
If you stay up there till it's all the way dark, you can see the northern lights, which I've gotten to do twice this year.
I just don't understand what we are gaining from this project. To me, we're sacrificing this place, this unique place that just cradles us. It's more about caring. Like, we should be really thinking about reciprocity. Like, how can we give back? How can we actually be true stewards in concert with the land up there that is giving us so much joy?
Know before that all the footage from the film was taken more or less in the last year, and none of it was AI. Guess I gotta say that. The Northern Lights were with my 6-year-old daughter 2 different times, and Graham actually does telemark ski. So yeah, it's real. So as you heard in the film, the developer who owns Mission Ridge wants to put a 7,812 bed development adjacent to the ski area. To do this kind of urban style high density growth outside of a growth management area, outside of city limits, you have to do something called a master plan resort overlay in Washington. And so Chelan County looked at that permit and decided that there would be significant impacts to the environment and that an environmental impact statement was necessary. So currently we're in the draft portion of that. I'll call it EIS, and then the draft is the DEIS. So the EIS, environmental impact statement, is supposed to be a disclosure document. It's supposed to read a little bit like a physical, like you went to your doctor and he says, what's wrong? Unfortunately, this draft version of the EIS that we've spent nearly the last year going through sometimes reads like it's a marketing brochure for the developer, which is why our involvement through the public comment period that is open now until Tuesday, but don't wait, is so important, because essentially us as a public needs to be the fact checkers, not only to say why we think that area is important to us or why you might want the development to happen. Both are valid comments to make. But unfortunately, we found that it needs a high level of scrutiny to find the many errors and omissions that are throughout. Just a couple examples of those errors. They say that there are no pica in the project area. And anyone who's been on Mission Ridge, you see the haystacks everywhere in the basalt fields. Right in the center of this development is a giant basalt field littered with pica haystacks. But there are no pica. There are no deer and elk wintering, migration, and very little calving up there, which, as you saw from the trail camera footage, in just a handful of months, that's where we saw that. No golden eagles. I don't know if you noticed the immature golden eagle in there, a sign that there's nesting nearby. So these are just a few examples of why we as the public need to add our comments in the next day or so. Slackers, if you haven't. But we're going to give you an opportunity, don't worry. So once we give our comments, the county is going to look at all these and then make an assessment of the substance of our comments. And if there are enough things pointed out that suggest maybe they need to go back and do more environmental studies, maybe, there's a lot of issues we'll talk about here in a little bit, then the next step could be a final EIS. So Friends of Mission Ridge has had a draft, some form of a draft copy of this EIS for the past year that we obtained through a public records request. So we got a head start on you guys and have been working on this tirelessly. Mike has put together an excellent but long 100-page comment guide that's on our website. So if you visit our website, which I think, at some point we'll have a link up there, you can use that comment guide as a jumping off spot to pick a topic that interests you. And we've tried to distill some of it so you don't have to go through the 350-page draft document or the thousands of pages of appendices, which we've also gone through. So Mike and I want to be a resource for you tonight. We may know more about this project than anyone else, including the developer. And so we want to be a resource if you have questions. And again, I'm not assuming everyone here is on one side or the other, and we welcome any questions, and we want to be useful to you tonight. So with that, we'll open up to a Q&A.
I know you guys are celebrities down valley, but can you just explain, like, specifically your career and technical expertise in engineering prior to this, and then Steven, your experience that led you to take notice of this process in the first place?
The question is, who are we? I'm a retired structural engineer, and I've been retired for 3 years, and for the last year I've dedicated all my free time to this project. It's right in my neighborhood. I live 4 miles down from the ski area, and I'm concerned that the level of traffic might prevent me from getting out of my driveway to go skiing. So I'm just a longtime local who cares. Go ahead, Steven.
Yeah, and I lived very near the ski area for about 5 years, and during that time spent almost every day of the week, all year round in these areas. So when I heard that this project was going in and then saw some of the comments about it not being important to elk migration and all that, I was like, this doesn't make sense with what you see on the ground. So I got curious, and here we are.
Do you have a timeline slide of this process, the impact studies, and is this over the next 5 years this is unfolding or not unfolding?
We do, and Steven will pull up a timeline slide for you. I can just give you a basic rundown. The current owner bought the adjacent property, Section 19, in 2014. In 2018, he unveiled a plan very similar to the current plan. It was somewhat smaller, somewhere around 800 housing units and a support city. There was a public comment period in 2018, a revised plan in 2020, another public comment period in 2022. By that time, the county had determined that an EIS was required, And so there was a scoping effort with public comment input. So we've had that now 4 public comment opportunities with the county, and the U.S. Forest Service is involved because the developer needs to put a road across Forest Service property from the ski area to the private property, and also needs some expanded Forest Service ski area property. They're calling it's a special use permit area, and they're going to need to expand it in order to move chairlift from the base area up to where you can ski down to your condo. So there also has been an environmental assessment by the Forest Service. We had public comment opportunity in 2018 for that, and they're on hold right now, waiting to see what happens with the county. The original plan was that they would work simultaneous, but they aren't. The county's the only one doing anything right now.
Yeah, and one other relevant point to that, the history is a similar resort was proposed on this Section 19 back in the 80s, and that essentially triggered the community to get together, kind of like we are now. And it was, you probably can't read all the fine print, but a very wide, large stakeholder group to form the Stimelt Partnership. And essentially, the consensus from that group was that urban style development is not appropriate in the upper basins because of wildlife, water, impacts to other forms of recreation. So in a sense, like we've already done this and we've gone through it. And interestingly, Mission Ridge was a part of the Stimelt Partnership, so they know that that was the consensus of the community. So, yeah, Ian.
The film said about 10,000 cars a day for traffic. Is that normal for a road like Squatchuck, or what does the EIS say about that?
Should I take that? Yeah. Okay, the question's about traffic on the Squatchuck Road. The answer is no, this is absolutely not normal. The county has guidelines for rural collectors. That's what the Mission Ridge Road is currently called. Well, if this development happens, there will be a traffic generating hub at the ski area and another traffic generating hub in the town, and then the roads between traffic generating areas are called arterials, but we're not that now, we're a rural collector. And the county has guidance in the form of a table that says if you're going to have between 1,500 and 4,000 average daily trips on a rural collector road, and that's the most they can envision ever happening on a rural road, then your road needs to be 32 feet wide. And of course, the 10,000 cars per day number comes from the developer, from their traffic impact analysis, which was done in 2018, again in 2019, and again in 2020, and it never got any better. And it's 2.5 times the biggest number of cars that the county can envision on a rural road. So no, it's not normal.
What's the traffic head count today for that road as it stands?
Oh gosh, it's
Any
something
ideas?
like in the neighborhood of 1,200 a day. My memory's bad, but that's roughly what it is on a weekend now. Yeah.
Do you have a sense if Chelan County would sign its name to this partnership, given its leadership today?
You know, Chelan County has, Mike can actually speak to this better, but Chelan County,
Has their stance changed?
being part of the Stimelt Partnership.
Yeah.
Chelan County is still a leader in the Stimelt Partnership, and if anything's going to happen, like very recently, the Stimelt Partnership Recreation Plan was completed, not super recently, about 4 years ago, and that established non-motorized winter play areas on either side of the ski area, which was a really big deal. And it was Chelan County who ran the meetings. It was Chelan County who facilitated the discussions between the non-motorized and the motorized crowds, and those were very heated discussions. It was Chelan County who convinced the DFW to produce the signs that were put up, so Chelan County's still, they're the leader.
So to follow up on that, I mean, we're just little old Chelan County, but it's actually a large organization with many offices. So which office are you talking about? Are you talking about natural resources, community development, or public works, or some combination therein that have been involved in this process heretofore?
It's Mike Caputa of Chelan County Natural Resources Department who facilitates all the Stimelt Partnership meetings, and he's involved in all this stuff. It's the planning department who will make the decision on whether or not to ignore or bend rules and allow this to happen.
How are they proposing that this development would meet the current road ratings? Like, are they saying it's going to need to be widened or what? So just for everyone, if you're going to send comments, I worked for Mike Caputa for 10 years in the county. You have to comment on things where there are legal parameters. It's nice if you like the elk. I like the elk too. But that comment's not going to hold any weight. Something where there's a traffic standard and they're proposing to increase that standard and not meet it is probably your best bet for seeing anyone, take your comments seriously.
Well, that's absolutely right. And there's, well, with the elk, the draft environmental impact statement makes false claims with bad priority habitat maps. And so if we can point out, which we've done with a camera study over the last year, that they say there's no calving elk. And we say, yes, there are. Here's pictures between section 19 and, so that is a substantial comment that does hopefully produce future studies. But you're right, I don't like it, is not a substantial comment and won't change the course of the draft environmental impact statement. However, Mission Ridge, so what we're doing is we're trying to say this is what's actually happening. We're telling you the truth. Mission Ridge is giving you marketing speak and saying this skiing is going to be rad. And they're asking us to write letters that say we're looking forward to this rad skiing. Also, they're specifically asking us to write a letter that says fire is not a problem and I'm not worried about it because they've been doing thinning and have shelter in place and that makes me feel safe. And to your point, that is not a substantial comment, but if 400 people write in and say, I like this and I feel safe, and then the commissioners say, what was the count? And there's 20 of us who wrote letters that say this is a bad idea and 400 people that said we like this, that could sway the commissioners and the commissioners could potentially put pressure on staff, which could result in somebody bending a rule and letting this happen. So you're right about substantial comments. And also, if you only have 1 minute and you want to register your name, you can go to our website, do a one-click, I don't like it, send it in and get it in the pile because I think numbers could matter.
Anthony?
My question kind of relates to the road. With emergency services, has Mission Ridge made any plan for what does happen with the inevitable fire and the water availability for fighting a fire up there, / it being a one road in, one road out kind of death trap for firefighters?
I could do the escape route, that's fun.
You want to do that?
Yeah, and then you can pick up that. By the way, if that was someone's phone ringing or alarm, that was the best ringtone I've ever heard. I'm not a great earbirder, but I'm sure someone identified that. We'll talk after. There is an escape plan. So though the developer doesn't want to do secondary access, like a full build out, they do have some motorcycle single track options to, their words, not mine. This was stated publicly at the this year's February PIBIS forum. There's a way, apparently you go from section 19 in the village and drop down almost that 1,500 feet into Swilchuck in the middle of the night, carrying babies and valuables. So they propose that as an emergency escape. However, the county is saying, even in the draft EIS, like, no, you have to have like one people can drive cars and stuff on.
That sounds like a joke, and it's not. The draft environmental impact statement actually lists foot traffic as a viable escape from wildfire. Yeah. So, and if anybody wants to challenge that after the show, I'll show you the spot in the DIS. We have it. But about the road. The current road is 12-foot lanes and 18-inch shoulders, and it's curvy, and there are no passing opportunities from Swilchuck Park to Mission Ridge. And the traffic impact analysis did not study that. It studied the bottom. It said that it was very similar to Highway 97, which goes from Wenatchee towards Entiat, where it's straight. They have 6-foot shoulders, almost all the way is passing. It's flat and straight, and you can see for 1,000 feet all the time. And they used Highway 97 and its traffic volumes as a comparison for our Mission Ridge Road, and they don't compare. And that table I told you about from the Chelan County Code, since you can't just pick this road criteria off a table because we have 2.5 times more traffic than the table accommodates, you got to go to the Highway Capacity Design Manual. And I'm a retired engineer. I went ahead and read through the rural design chapter, and it turns out that for this amount of traffic, you have to have a road that's significantly wider than 28 feet, the 12-foot lanes plus the current shoulder size. And if you've heard any of the marketing and the excuse for not having a second entrance, they say we're going to have one exit, but it'll be wider. And they say it'll be 28 feet, it'll be wider. And that wider is a complete lie, because that is the width of the current Mission Ridge Road, which is inadequate. It falls below county standards when at full build out with the 10,000 traffic per day. And it doesn't even meet if we had 4,000 trips per day. We have 10,000 trips per day. It would have to be a 32-foot road. So wider than maybe the road that would be required if you were doing a 3-lot subdivision, which would maybe require a 12-foot road, and they're going to give us a 28-foot road. So anyway, the traffic is a real issue, and there's 100 things we could say about it. That's probably an exaggeration, but every question about traffic comes with, I have to take a big breath and say, yes, everything that they say about traffic is wrong.
Yeah, what can you say to the climate impact of this as an issue that again, regarding the law? I mean, the climate impact would be massive, 10,000 trips per day. Every stick that would go into building that place, every grocery thing, everything up and down, and then people flying in from out of state maybe going to visit. The climate impact would be massive, and it would be continuing, it would never stop. Is there an argument, though, legally or by code, county code, that could be referred to that would successfully address that? In other words, not just saying I don't like it, that this would be bad, but how do you, is that challengeable, or is that a criteria that you can actually bring up to cite and that would have standing?
Yep. Yeah. So I forgot to. The people online can't hear the question. So the question was about climate impact generally, and yes, that's a great question. All the nuance that you just asked about should be a question that you put in your public comment, because the climate change section of the draft EIS is one of those very anemic sections that I believe under Washington state law, and I have this in my comments, cited all the relevant codes. But yeah, you're supposed to convert things to greenhouse gas emissions, all that. And they didn't go ahead and do all the extra steps to account for all the impacts. So it appears that it is inadequate, and it needs public comments like yours to highlight that, hey, there's a redo here because you didn't assess properly.
You've got a lot of information on your website. With the details I would need to not only cite that as an issue, but back it up, would I be able to find that on your website, or is there?
Climate impact information cannot be found on our website. That Chapter 12, I got tired and didn't tackle it. The only thing the DEIS says is, here's what we're going to do. It's not going to have any impact on the environment. They didn't say the environment's changing, and 20 years from now we might be a community of climate refugees. They didn't look at what the climate would do to the project, and all they said about what the project would do to the climate is it won't do anything. So we can't help with that.
Well, no, I've spent the last couple of weeks working on the climate section, so if you could email me after, I'm happy to share, because I have all the relevant. Yeah, and then obviously the climate change isn't limited to just greenhouse gases. It is, as Mike was referring to, is how would that change the forest ecosystem up there? How would it impact wildlife? How would it impact recreation? The composition of the snowpack, and how people change their behaviors around that. So it's obviously one master variable that touches everything. So it's a great question.
you have to have something to tie that into that is a legal code or something.
Yeah, and there are some, and it is, yeah, so email me and I'll share my thoughts. Yeah.
Hi, I was just curious if they used a consultant to do the habitat and wildlife assessments, if you have that at the top of your head.
Oh, who is?
Yeah.
He'll know.
Andrew Lyons and...
Oh, well, I feel like there's a few. I want to say Washington Conservation. Huh? Oh, yes. They're asking who are the consultants that were doing the wildlife assessment?
I'm making an assumption it was consultants that provided the data.
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a handful. Aspect? Okay.
Primary consultant on the DEIS.
Okay, Aspect is the primary consultant. And I don't think everyone knows this, but how this works is the developer hires consultants, and then the consultants bring that information, then the county acts kind of as this umbrella to house it. So when you're looking at the draft EIS, this isn't the work of county, this is the work of contractors who are hired by the developer.
I'm curious, out of the 7,000 beds, what are the developer proposing? Hotels and houses and condos and all of that? A village at all, or with commercial, or just all residential?
110,000 square feet of commercial space, 628 condos, 265 single-family houses, a 57-bed hotel, and 80 employee housing beds, bunk style.
Yeah, you also have a template letter on your website, so as far as hitting on legal issues and points, it's already prepared, at least started for folks, not having to go through 100 or 350 pages.
That's true, and if you want to write a comment that has substance, you have to say the law says you have to cover X. The DEIS does not cover that, or covers it with persuasive language or incompletely or whatever, and here's what it should say, and this is what I request. That's how you'd make that comment.
And to add to that, so we have Chelan County Code, but Chelan County has also adopted Washington SEPA laws, so you can, for instance, with the climate change stuff, I believe that's where most of the relevant laws are coming from, through that.
What's the water source for this development, and would it be adequate year-round, and would that use have any impact on down valley water usage?
The question is about where's the water coming from, and does it have any impact to the downstream users? The developer proposes 5 phases to build this out. And the first phase would more than double the traffic. It would had 275 housing units, which is more than double the Forest Ridge community, which is just downhill from them. And for the first phase, they propose to drill new wells and pull water from the aquifers, which are hydraulically connected to the surface water. So they're taking water from Squilchuck Creek, from the headwaters, and they want to take something like 240 acre feet that they claim to have water rights for. The DEIS is not clear on. They provide a list of the water rights that Mission Ridge has, but they don't say we're going to use this one for this, and they have to change surface water to well water, that sort of stuff, seasonal to year-round. So there's a bunch of ecology hurdles, but the answer is the water comes from the ground for the first phase or two, and if they're allowed to do that, they want to continue to take the water from the ground forever, and then when they go on to phases 3, 4, 5, then they would bring water up from, PD water up from town, and then use that water. And if our efforts are successful, or maybe the county just follows rules that would not allow this, maybe they won't be allowed to drill and take water. That would be fantastic, and they might have to bring water up from town to start with. There's another problem with that, which is the developer doesn't want to pay for this, and they need to pay for it. The rules are very specific that all utility extensions need to be paid for by the developer.
Say again? What are they doing with poop?
The question was about poop.
Wastewater is another conundrum. The initial plan for the first 2 or 3 phases is to do on-site septic systems, and that's if you live in a rural situation, you've got a tank. Everything that you flush down the toilet or put down the sink goes into a tank, and then it goes out into pipes that are buried that have small holes in them, and that water goes out into the ground and trickles down through the ground and gets cleaned. And that's the proposal for the first 2 phases. However, in the 1986 final environmental impact statement for the previous version of this, the soils were found to be inadequate for on-site septic systems, so they probably can't do that. And the DEIS says, no problem, if we can't do on-site septic, we'll pivot to a wastewater treatment plant, which is similar to what you see in Cashmere or Wenatchee or Stevens Pass, where they don't actually treat the effluent from the ski area. It's just, well, anyway, wastewater treatment plant's a big deal. And in the 1986 EIS, it was determined that you can't do a wastewater treatment plant because Squilchuck Creek doesn't have enough flow to dilute the effluent to legal levels. And so currently the plan is we're going to do something we know won't work, and if that doesn't work, we're going to do something that we think probably won't work. Therefore, done.
Is site impacts to fish at all?
No, and they say that Squilchuck Creek is fish bearing, and the only problem with that is that the new road will go through the parking lot at Mission Ridge, taking away somewhere between 100 and 200 parking spots, and they're going to cross Squilchuck Creek. And so because it's fish bearing, there's additional rules. Lake Creek, which comes down from the Lake Clara area, also goes underneath the parking lot in a culvert. And with my Beehive Irrigation District Director hat on, I know that Lake Creek has fish because we put a dam across Lake Creek to collect water for Beehive Irrigation or for Beehive Reservoir in 2014, and DFW electroshocked the creek, found fish, and we had to put in a fish bypass on our dam. So anyway, they not only don't cite that, but they also say half the creeks they cross don't have fish.
Mike, we're about 5 minutes. We're going to try to wrap around 8. So if we don't get to your question in time, Mike and I will stay around for a while, and we're happy to chat with folks. You can also email us. So we might do like rapid fire for the next 5 minutes. So I haven't been given this side of the room love, so I'm going to go to the back there.
So they're making the kids think it's going to be so great for skiing. Like, what do we say to them? Right? Like, I hear you saying it's like not great, extra skiing. Like,
Yeah.
What is the argument?
Yeah. So the question is about all the new skiing. So per their estimate, this will add 100,000 new skiers. That's about double of what is on the ski area right now. And it would, again, by their numbers, add about 2.5 new chair ones. So not a lot of new skiing, and most of it not the best, for advanced skiers. And again, that's not my words, that's straight from the 2020 Forest Service EA, that the Forest Service assessed not that many people would use it, so they need the chairlift to bump back over into the real ski area. So yeah, so if you like crowding, then this is for you.
How do you counter the economic development argument?
It's hard to do this without being flippant. The economic argument that Mission Ridge makes, that this is good for the community. We could cut down all the trees in the Okanagan-Wenatchee National Forest and make some money, but we don't want to do that. And in the same vein, there are so many bad things that come with this that it's not worth it for the money. It's true that this brings in money, and we're not arguing against that. It's just at what cost do we want those dollars?
We know Sean's answer to that. So, how do you fix that with the commission? That's, I think, the biggest hurdle.
Yeah. Well, one is the technical details of the economic impact study that Mission did. I mean, I'm not an economist, but with a little bit of research, it's easy to see the methodology of how that was conducted was not accurate. So there's that, and they don't factor in things like leakage. They don't factor in things like currently anyone that comes up to Mission Ridge and then needs a place to stay and doesn't use the RV lot comes back into town and uses hotels and restaurants in the area. And so what Mission wants to do is capture all of that and have it on site. And so the economic impact statement didn't assess for that. So there's a lot of holes in that. But yeah, we're happy to meet with the commission, and we probably will, and speak to them about some of those issues.
I want to add that the economic argument is similar to I feel safe because they're thinning and I'm not scared of fire. It's an emotional, not topical issue that would sway commissioners. They want tax base, but it doesn't make any difference to the draft environmental impact statement. So anybody writes a letter that says, this is great, brings in money, goes in the emotional, I like it stack, but it doesn't affect the environmental impact statement.
Go ahead. Just a quick comment, like, I think there's a lot of really smart people in this room that have technical knowledge about a lot of pieces in here. And if you make a comment, just focus on your technical expertise and drill into that really, really well. Like, if you're a botanist, go there. Don't worry about if you're a geotech engineer, go there. Don't worry about anything else, and like show your expertise. The other thing I would say is wherever you send there, send to the Wenatchee World and the 3 commissioners. Because the Wenatchee World is very much in the ties of Mission Ridge. I've had some back and forth with them, and they actually show a little room of like, oh, I didn't think about that sort of thing. So the more that they can hear from you, same thing with your commissioners, they represent you, remind them of that. So whatever you send to this report, send a similar version to the world and the commissioners.
That'd be fantastic. The more it gets into the Wenatchee World, I think the better, because most people that I ride the chairlift with, which I do that a lot, the local skiers who ski all the time are bamboozled by the marketing, and they think that it's going to be improved skiing in the ski area. And so I just want to point out that, so anyway, education is important because most of my ski peers don't know what this is about.
But lead with, I love skiing.
Yeah, me too.
I love Mission Ridge, but.
So this is the ski area, and this is the development. And all of the new skiing is here. 0 of it, none, is inside the ski area. And this is owned by Tamarack Saddle LLC, and this is owned by New Mission LLC. They happen to be owned by the same person. And we're promised that dollars that go into the development will pay for new chairlifts and improvements. And those are hollow promises. And for someone who has had a lot of resistance from the community and still says, this is my legacy, this is going to happen no matter what, I don't think that person is interested in upgrading chairlifts. He just bought this big, a whole section for $2.5 million. That could have fixed a chair. He bought a ski area in Montana that could have fixed a chair. He bought the old Z Meadow Market, which is about halfway up the Mission Ridge Road. There could have been another chair. He's not acting in good faith. So anyway, here's the new skiing. Here's where your condos go. And you got to take this chairlift up here so you can ski down into the ski area. On a powder day, if you wake up in a condo, it might be 10 o'clock before you get to the ski area.
I just wanted to point out, and the one lift he did buy is like 20 years old, and they don't even make parts for it.
All right, well, we should wrap up.
Before we do, I was just on the edge of disparaging, and we are friends of Mission Ridge. We want the ski area to persist. We love skiing there. I grew up, my kids ski there. I love the place, and I think the tone of what I just said was a little bit getting dark because I'm scared of what this current owner might do. This is a permanent change that we'll never recover from. We need to protect the ski area from it. Yeah.
Okay. Here. We got folks, if you just want to do a one click, you're like, I'm not interested in look it up. Washington codes and RWCs, this and that. This one's for you on the left. You just go on there, put your name, and that's just a thumbs up of support that you care for the water, the wildlife. You don't want to double crowding on the ski area. If you have plans this weekend to meet up with your friends or just get on your computer and dive into a section, then come over here to the Weekend Warrior public comment side. And if you want to look like you're participating, you can just hold your phone up and no one's going to judge. Thanks so much. I wish we could do more Q&A with you, but Mike and I will stand around. We're happy to just get all the hard balls and softballs you can throw at us. Thanks so much. And then also, if you don't get to us tonight, please email us specific questions. That's great. This is all we're thinking about until Tuesday, and then we're going to retire from this.
Tell them they're due by Tuesday.
Yes, and then your public comment. If you don't get this done tonight, October 21st, Tuesday at, I think, 5 p.m. So don't slack. So get your public comment in. Thank you very much. Good evening.